They called it a heater made of shadows, a trick so simple it sounded like a lie. A single candle, barely strong enough to light a page, quietly warming an entire room in the middle of the coldest war on Earth. During World War II, when fuel was rationed and winter killed as effectively as bullets, soldiers and civilians whispered about a setup that bent common sense. One flame, no electricity, no moving parts, yet frost retreated and hands stopped shaking. Was it propaganda or forgotten physics? Imagine being in a bomb-damaged European flat, windows taped, coal gone, breath visible in the air, and someone lights a candle. Not for light, but for heat. The room doesn't blaze, it doesn't feel like a furnace. But slowly, unmistakably, the cold loosens its grip. This wasn't magic, it was understanding. An understanding so quiet and unglamorous that history almost erased it. The mystery isn't whether it worked. It's why it worked so well, why armies and families relied on it, and why, in an age of smart homes and endless power, we forgot a trick that could still save energy, lives, and resilience today. To understand that, we have to step back into a world where necessity stripped technology down to its bare logic, and heat itself became a puzzle worth solving. Before the war, heat meant coal fires, stoves and boilers. But World War II shattered supply lines. Cities like London, Berlin, Warsaw and Leningrad faced brutal winters, with fuel rationed to almost nothing. Candles, however, were cheap, portable and everywhere. People already used them for light, but necessity pushed curiosity further. In air raid shelters, barracks and cramped apartments, people noticed something odd. Clustered candles felt warmer than expected, not just nearby, but across the room. Soldiers improvised shelters from brick and clay, civilians stacked terracotta flower pots, and quietly a pattern emerged. This wasn't official doctrine, but practical knowledge spreading by word of mouth. The war forced people to observe how heat moved, how air behaved, how materials held warmth. Engineers would later explain it, but wartime survivors learned it by feel. A candle's flame is small, yet it burns steadily, releasing heat upward. Instead of letting that heat vanish into the ceiling, people trapped it, redirected it, slowed it down. In a time when every calorie of energy mattered, even a candle's output became precious. After the war, central heating expanded, electricity grew cheap, and these improvisations felt backward, almost embarrassing. Manuals weren't written, patents weren't filed. The trick survived only in memories, passed down occasionally, misunderstood, often mocked. But the logic never stopped being true, and the physics never changed. Here's the clever part, and it's all about controlling movement. A candle produces heat continuously, but heat loves to rise and escape. The WWII trick didn't create more heat, it stopped wasting it. Imagine placing a candle beneath an inverted terracotta pot, then stacking one or two more pots above it with metal rods, creating small gaps. The flame heats the air heats the clay, and the clay absorbs and radiates that warmth slowly in all directions. Instead of a sharp, localized flame, you get a gentle spreading warmth. The pot becomes a thermal battery. Clay has mass, and mass stores energy. As hot air circulates inside, the pots heat evenly, releasing warmth long after the candle flickers. It also creates convection. Cooler air from the room is drawn in, warmed, and released back out. This continuous cycle raises the room's temperature subtly but steadily. No sparks, no smoke, no noise. During the war, variations appeared everywhere, using bricks, tins, even helmets. People discovered through trial and error that shape, spacing and material mattered more than flame size. One candle couldn't heat a mansion, but in a small sealed room, it took the edge off deadly cold. It worked because it respected physics instead of fighting it. Today, this trick feels almost rebellious. We live surrounded by energy-hungry machines, yet face rising costs, blackouts and climate pressure. The candle heater won't replace modern systems, but it teaches a mindset we desperately need. In emergencies, off-grid cabins, disaster shelters, or fuel-scarce regions, the same principle still applies. Thermal mass, insulation, and controlled airflow are the foundations of efficient heating, whether you're using a candle or a heat pump. Modern survivalists rediscover this method not as nostalgia, but as resilience. Even in normal homes, the lesson scales up. Heavy materials store heat, draft steal it, and slow release beats sudden bursts. Passive solar homes, masonry, heaters, and energy-efficient architecture all echo this wartime logic. Two forced people to ask better questions, like how little energy is actually needed if none is wasted. That's a question worth asking again. In a world chasing bigger solutions, this tiny flame reminds us that understanding systems can outperform brute force. The candle trick survives because it's not a hack, it's a principle. And principles don't expire, even when technology moves on. What makes this story powerful isn't the candle, it's the mindset behind it. During World War II, people didn't have the luxury of ignoring physics. They watched, learned, adapted, and shared knowledge that kept them alive. The lost candle heater is a symbol of that quiet intelligence, the kind born not in laboratories, but in cold rooms with nothing to spare. We forgot it because abundance made us careless, and convenience made us blind to fundamentals. But history has a way of circling back. Energy becomes scarce. Systems fail. And suddenly old knowledge matters again. This trick won't turn winter into summer, but it teaches something deeper. Small, steady inputs, when guided correctly, can change an entire environment. That lesson applies far beyond heating. It's about efficiency, self-reliance, and respect for simple truths. Remembering it isn't about living in the past. It's about carrying forward wisdom that still works. If one candle could warm a room in the darkest years of the 20th century, imagine what understanding could do today. If this story changed how you see energy, survival, or forgotten knowledge, keep exploring, keep questioning, and consider sharing it with someone who still thinks progress only moves forward. If this story changed how you see energy, survival, or forgotten knowledge, keep exploring, keep questioning, and consider sharing it with someone who still thinks progress only moves forward.